It's exactly literally the theme from A Bug's Life, where the ants find out that they don't really need to be getting so much food for the hornets.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
While my generation, Gen Z, has come up with quite a few revolutions in the recent past, it doesn't seem like there's any plan for what comes afterwards. You know, I've heard this term recently, all roads lead to TPD. Now you can figure that one out for yourself, but you know, it really does seem that way. It's just there isn't such a strong plan for what happens afterwards. Because unfortunately, the most likely to deserve power are the least likely to take it. And that seems to be the case. The least likely to deserve power are the ones who've had it for so long. And obviously the recent update on all the Epstein files just, you know, makes that point a little bit more clear. But it's been clear for the longest time. It's not the cream of the crop rises to the top. It's those who are willing to take it, you know, the will to power. In the past, there used to be rites of passage or rituals that young men would go through to, you know, make sure that they were upstanding men, make sure that they were right for their community. But since we've lost all those rituals, and since we've lost all those rites of passage, we're left here with a bunch of, you know, gooning, cooming young men who don't have a single clue what they would do if the current power structure dissolved. And while we may want a revolution, and while we may want that power structure to dissolve, you know, what type of world will we leave behind afterwards? And we need to figure out as a people, as a race, a human race, you know, what we want for the future for our world. Because it's clear, at least to me, and I think to a lot of people, that this current power structure can't go on. We can't go on like this. These people need to be replaced, removed, you know. Whatever that means to you, it needs to happen. It's obvious. The connections run so deep. There are all kinds of different factions, and you can see all the connections from different countries or different races, different, you know, political factions, and how they all interact with each other. And how Epstein was a kind of like a liaison or a middleman between these different factions, you know, and how they all work and how they all, you know, are so above the law. You know, it doesn't make sense that, you know, you could go up and assault somebody on the street, or if somebody's attacking you and you fight back, and you might get into legal trouble for such, you know. But we have mountains and mountains and mountains of evidence. And even just, you know, even if there's no evidence, you can infer what was happening with a lot of these people, or you can infer that they at least let bad things happen. Bad things, really bad things. But there's no consequences for them. Because who would bring the consequences upon them? You know, who would bring the consequences upon these people? Well, clearly it has to be us. You know, but we're sitting at home and we're, you know, complaining on the internet, or you know, scrolling Reddit or scrolling X or scrolling YouTube, or, you know, whatever else we're doing. We're not holding these people accountable. What do you think, the military or the police are just going to wake up one day and be like, hey, you know what, master, what you did is wrong? You know, no, they get their commands from the top, and the top are involved. Whether we like it or not, the top are involved in this, you know, disgusting little web of lies. You know, their system isn't complicated. It's a system of connections. They go, hey, you know, I do this thing, I have control over these resources, you do that thing, you have control over those resources, let's come together and make something work. Or, you know what, I want your resources, now we're going to fight. It's very, very simple the way that they work, the way that they move. But they exist inside of this little power bubble that feels untouchable. In reality, it's not untouchable. You know, it's exactly literally the theme from A Bug's Life, where the ants find out that they don't really need to be getting so much food for the hornets, you know? And all it takes is that one ant to show them the proof. But it feels like that's already happened. I mean, I don't know how much more proof we'll need as to what happens with these people in these positions of power, you know? Not necessarily that I have any evidence, but now the the correlations, the connections of all of the many little pieces of evidence and detail are painting this big picture of worldwide universal corruption. But the real question is, where do we go from here? You know, what type of world are we able to set up? Can we set aside our differences as a people? You know, because it's clear, it's not that it's our design that we're so divided. It was not our design to be so divided against one another, culturally, religiously, etc., etc. We were we were groomed into these systems of division. You know? So what do we do after the revolution? Will there be a revolution? You may be part of the, you know, kind of nothing ever happens crew. What do we do after the revolution?